All right, time to start our Tic Tac Toe boards. You will begin with a slab of clay, which is a flat rolled out piece of clay. Your first job is to decide what shape you want it to become, and then trim off the extra. That extra will become the parts we use to divide up your 9 squares. So if you want it to be a square shape, then you can use different cutting tools that are available to you. Popsicle stick is pretty easy. What we can do is just press and chop off the edges to make it a nice kind of square shape. So I'm doing that kind of as far over as I can because I want it to be a nice big playing surface. I'm pressing down and then just kind of pulling away. Now, as we talked about, make sure you are not playing or touching your clay more than you need to. The more your hands touch the clay, the drier the clay becomes. Now that this clay is a square, I'm good with that. I'm gonna leave that on the table. At the end, I can kind of round off the edges or make sure it's nice and neat, because sometimes when you cut things, it ends up with this kind of frayed edge, which we want to avoid. But now I can use these extra bits of clay to create the lines that go across my grid. I could also draw the lines first so I know where they're going to go. We need to divide it into 9 squares, which means 2 vertical lines, 2 horizontal lines. So using your best judgment, I think I might use my popsicle stick again. I'm going to make a line kind of over here, not cutting all the way through, and a line over here. Here and here. Now, the best part about clay is if you make one of those lines and it seems off, all you have to do is kind of smudge and smear away that line and just try again. So make sure you've got lines kind of lined up where you want them. That looks pretty neat on its own. I technically could leave it like this, or I could build up the edges. I think maybe I'll add a edge that sticks up so my pieces stay inside. Taking my extra pieces of clay, I want to turn these into coils. I like to work with a small piece at a time. I'm going to start by rolling it between my hands, and then more often than not, it's easiest to roll it on the table. Now, I told you to keep all your clay on the placemat. However, for rolling things, we do need to use the table because otherwise the placemat moves. So just be careful not to press down very hard when you're rolling it on the table because we don't want it to get stuck and ruin the clay or the table. So when I'm rolling, I'm pressing very, very gently, not very hard or it turns flat. And I'm rolling kind of in little bits at a time to make sure that one area isn't becoming too thin and the other area too thick. This can take some practice, and that's okay. If it doesn't work, crumple it all back up and try again. I'm gonna go ahead and think about adding it as like a frame around my game board. So I'm going to kind of trace around like this. Looks like I need one more coil to make it all the way around. So I'm gonna take my next piece. All right, it looks like I have enough coil. There, I'm gonna break it off. Okay, now, I cannot just leave my coil like it is. It will not stay put on my game board. So I have to do the 3 S's: score, slip, smooth. So I'm gonna move my little coils out of the way for now, knowing I have enough. First, score. Score means to scratch, which is why there's a toothbrush in your slip bucket. The toothbrush has a textured edge, right, where normally it's for cleaning your teeth, but for today, it is scoring. So by using a toothbrush and the glue, we're actually doing the first 2 steps at the same time. We are scoring, which is scratching, and slipping because we have wet glue on the toothbrush. So I'm scratching and slipping, making it slippery. At the same time, I'm scratching it. And this is like you're making Velcro. This scratched edge will make sure that my coil stays attached. So I'm gonna take my coil, scratch, and then I'm going to put the 2 scratched sides together and press gently but firmly onto the clay. You'll notice that it becomes much more stuck almost instantly. Now I can go and smooth, which means I'm going to attach this piece really to the clay. So I can use my hand to do this, I could use a tool to do this, but I want this clay to merge with the piece I just attached it to. So I'm thinking probably on the outside edge. So if I very gently pick this up, you can see how there's a crack between the coil and the edge of the clay. To make it look neat and to make sure it's secure, I'm gonna go around and just gently smear those 2 together. Maybe smear up from below, down from above. I'm trying to merge those 2 pieces of clay so that there is not a crack, but they are smooth together. Okay, my game board is pretty much done. One of the things you can then do kind of towards the end is the final smoothing. You can take a little bit of slip just on its own on your finger and use it to go over any little cracks and kind of blend them together. You do not want to drown your clay in water. It will become muddy and will not hold its form as well. So just use little bits at a time to look for any spots where there are little cracks or bumps you don't want and use it to smooth those out. And then your game board is done. It's time to create the pieces of your game board. So I'm going to move this guy off to the side. I need to make sure my game pieces can fit on my game board, so I want to be aware of the size. They're going to be fairly small, but I'll need to create 10 of them. Now there are 9 squares on a tic-tac-toe board, but depending on who goes first, one person will need to play 5 turns, one person will play 4 turns. So you have extra clay already, and I can give you more if you run out, but you're going to take these pieces to start to make your game pieces. Now, I'm going to be doing a plant theme, so I'm going to be making leaves for one part and ladybugs for the other part. So part of these shapes are almost a leaf form. A leaf is kind of like an ellipse with some points. So part of making your pieces can just be shaping, but if I notice, this is not going to fit super well on my small corners. So I might go and cut it or trim it down a little bit, or I could even just pull off the edge and kind of press it back into shape. So again, you're kind of using your hand to form and create the shape. Now, for your tic-tac-toe pieces, make sure your 2 pieces are very different so you can tell who's doing what. So there's one of my leaf shapes. I might add some details at the end. For my ladybug, I'm just going to make a little circle, and when I paint it, it'll make it look more like a ladybug. So I'll kind of make a circle, maybe press it down so it has a flat bottom and it can sit somewhere. So they both fit. I could make my ladybug a little bit bigger, or I could give my ladybug a head. So I'm going to try making another ball. Making the spheres are pretty easy. And I could actually make this kind of the body of the ladybug, and I could attach a head. Now, we just learned about attaching things. This goes for anything with clay, which means I need to score, slip, and attach. So I'm going to use a little bit of my liquid, and I'm going to scratch. Sometimes when you're scratching, it almost helps to just press. You'll see that your toothbrush makes like a fuzzy surface just by pressing. Do the same thing to the piece that I'm attaching. Press, starts to get textured, and then I can press them together to attach. Now I do not have to smooth it together if I pressed and attached carefully enough. So now this is my ladybug shape. When I paint it, it'll look more like a ladybug. Okay, got my leaf and my ladybug. Now I need to create a few more of those, go through all my extra clay, make sure I'm scratching and attaching things that need to be scratched and attached. I could also draw some designs instead of scratching and attaching. I could use my tools to draw, like leaves have those veins in them, and I could kind of draw the veins in my clay. I don't know if you can really see. There, I kind of drew those designs on top. So up to you how you decorate it, but keep in mind we'll be able to paint it. So it's okay if your shapes are fairly simple because we'll add color to them later. Okay, I have my 5 ladybugs, my 5 leaves, and I have extra clay. Extra clay I will just gently ball up and return to the clay cart to make sure other students can use it, or if someone else at my table needs it, I can share it with them. And all of these things need to dry, to bone dry before they can go inside the kiln. Make sure keep all your things together and listen to where they go to make sure they dry and get safely into the kiln. Nice work.